I live? I don't see it. Ah, there we go. Okay. There we go. All right. Good morning, folks, and welcome. So we're preparing for Purim, for Afreilichen Purim. So we began a new mimer, a mimer that was said in 1951. This discourse. Kibala Yehudim Asher Yechil Lasos. The verse says in the Megillah Esther, the story of Purim, that the Yehudim, the Jews, accepted upon themselves that which they began. So, what does that mean? We accepted upon ourselves complete commitment to God, to Torah and mitzvahs, to being Jewish, by the story of Purim. And where do we begin? We begin the commitment at Mount Sinai. So we asked the question, and this is all based on the previous Rebbe's discourse, that by the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, we were both materially and spiritually on a great level. Materially, we came out of Egypt. We were free. As opposed to Purim, we're under the servitude of Achashverosh. We're under his rule. And that there's a death sentence over the Jewish people. They're going to be destroyed by Haman's decree in one day. That's like a real, just to give context, that's a real final solution. Right? We don't realize how, whoa, story of Purim is lo pashut, not simple. You have to understand that Achashverosh was the ruling king over 127 provinces. Really, most of the world at the time, from India to Ethiopia. It's a lot. So it wasn't, where to run. Secondly, spiritually, at Mount Sinai, we were at a very elevated level. God spoke to the entire Jewish people. As opposed to, we were on a very low level spiritually by the story of Purim. We were in exile. A decree that occurred because of, our lack of connection and commitment. Interesting. I don't know if he really says that point over here, but so it was. That's interesting. Why not? Sorry. So we need to understand that point. So what is the greatness? Is the Mesiras Nefesh, the self-sacrifice that they had. Not one single Jew opted out from his Jewishness, which could have, a person could have done that, and the decree would not have applied to them, but no one did. Not only that, Mordechai brought the Jewish people publicly to learn Torah. He brought children, 22,000 children publicly to learn Torah. And, children said, "We're with you, Mordechai, in life and in death if something happens to us. We're connected. We're not. We're not frightened. So, for that reason, we understand now of why the full commitment of the Jewish people is expressed in the story and came out in the story of Purim. But we still need to understand. So we need to understand. The main point of the explanation in the previous Rebbe's discourse, Maimer, that specifically when there was the decree, there was this acceptance because of their self-sacrifice, right? So it's about the people. It's not about the person that was arousing them and inspiring them. So why is there an emphasis placed on Mordechai? That he's, inspiring the people. In the end, the spiritual heights of the Jewish people at Mount Sinai was theirs. They were spiritually on a high. The spiritual heights of the Jewish people in the story of Purim is their self-sacrifice. You can inspire someone, which is what Mordechai did, but the self-sacrifice is their own, right? The fact that they came out, the children came out, the adults came out publicly to proclaim their Jewishness, not with placards and protesting, but we're Jewish, we're praying to God, we are connecting to God as the Jewish people, and hey, this is me, this is who we are, right? So, what's the emphasis here about Mordechai? We need to understand that. We also need to understand the second point is that there's an emphasis in the mimer, in the discourse from the previous Rebbe, of two things: the spiritual greatness at Mount Sinai, and the material greatness also, the freedom, as opposed to in the story of Purim, their spiritual downcast and their material physical lowness. I mean, it's about a spiritual thing over here. The self-sacrifice that they had is a spiritual greatness of theirs. So what's the material lowness have to do with anything? They were spiritually on a very low level, and yet they had self-sacrifice. Oh, okay, that makes sense. What's it got to do that, in Mount Sinai they were free from slavery, and here we are in exile and we are, the servants or under the thumb, if you will, of Achashverosh. What? That's not so much the point. Why is that being emphasized? Remember, everything is so perfectly exact. Everything in God's world is perfectly exact. We're just sort of not so aware of that. And we think things are random. They're not. But by a Rebbe who not just knows it, but lives that. So that in their teachings, everything is, is with great precision. Okay. So in going further, we need to understand Also, we need to understand the content of the explanation in the previous Rebbe's teachings. Again, just a reminder that everything is always, Judaism has to always come back to God, through Moses, from Moses to Joshua. Like there's this chain that connects everything. So you link to teachings that came before you. So the Rebbe is linking to teachings of the previous Rebbe, who he linked it either to his father, or sometimes it's linked to the previous Rebbe, sometimes linked directly to the Alter Rebbe, right, the author of Tanya. But it's always linked somewhere. So there's a eternal linkage all the way back to Moses and Mount Sinai. So we need to understand the content of the explanation in the fact that the Jewish people accepted in the time of a decree. Why is it? As we explain. What's their greatness? Is because of the self-sacrifice that they had on Torah and mitzvahs. Right? Before that, the decree comes because of kind of being lackadaisical in their Torah and mitzvahs. I don't want to go into that because discourse isn't going into that, but that's another discourse explaining that more. But they had self-sacrifice. They went above and beyond, right? So seemingly, most of the mitzvahs, right? So we're talking about that they had self-sacrifice over Torah mitzvahs in general. But in general, most of the mitzvahs in the Torah, I'm going to go through a little weaving over here. All right. In general, the majority of mitzvahs in the Torah says about them that you should do them and live by them. Otherwise, live by them and don't die by them. Right? You're not supposed to die by mitzvahs. You're supposed to live with them, right? Also, the 3 mitzvahs that it says that actually you have to give up your life, which is not to kill somebody else. You have to get killed yourself. If someone puts a gun to you and says, "You kill this guy," right? You go kill your friend, otherwise you're going to get killed. Guess what? You can't kill your friend in order to save your life. Likewise, idolatry. Go bow down to this idol. Go, this Buddha, go and serve it. I'm ready to give up your life instead of doing that. Also, illicit relations. Go have relations with this married woman or a woman, or you get killed. Can't. Right? So there's a mitzvah to be killed rather than transgress. So their self-sacrifice is only, the sacrifice of your life is in the fulfillment of that command. Right? In other words, the self-sacrifice is that it is in the fact that you would give up your life in actuality, right? Furthermore, the mitzvah of self-sacrifice, which to sanctify God's name, is one mitzvah. Right? So the first point we're making is that even when you do have to give up your life, it's only in the act, right? In the manner of the fulfillment that it is self-sacrifice. And further, the mitzvah of self-sacrifice, which on to sanctify God's name is only one mitzvah. Now, okay, with that background, what is the hechrech? What's forcing us? What's the proof that the self-sacrifice for acceptance, like whichever, this is what the verse that we're based on, right? That they accepted the Jewish people is on the general, on the general Torah. In other words, what we're saying is like they self-sacrifice over everything. But why do you have to say? Why are we saying that when the mitzvah of self-sacrifice is just one mitzvah? It's in the act of the mitzvah of giving up your life when it comes to those three things, and even when it's on, and even when it's self-sacrifice that brings about sanctifying God's name. It's not on the general Torah. It's one mitzvah. But here we're saying, they accepted the Jewish people, all of the Torah with self-sacrifice. Why do we have to say that? They say they fulfilled one mitzvah. You're going to say, might want to bring proof from Tanya. Tanya, we just had this in chapter 25, for those who recall. Right now, today finishing up chapter 27. That the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu only taught the Jewish people the mitzvah of Kriya Shema, saying the Shema twice a day, right? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Which is accepting upon yourself the readiness to give up your life for God, right? Even though, why they need that? They're not, they're going into the land of Israel, and God promised that that Joshua will be able to defeat the nations, that it won't be in a manner of ready to give up your life, right? It's going to be, the fear will be upon the nations, right? So it wasn't for that reason that they had to have the mitzvah now of Shema, because at the end of 40 years, it was in the book of Deuteronomy, right? The last 37 days, that's when they got, before Moses passed away, that's when they got the mitzvah. So why did they get the mitzvah then? It's because all of the fulfillment of Torah and mitzvahs that we fulfill should be done in a manner that you're ready to give up your life. So you see, all mitzvahs have to have it, right? So there's a connection of all mitzvahs. We should be ready to give up our lives. We have to remember that. And so therefore, your fulfillment of a mitzvah will be with this mindfulness, which means gives you a lot of energy, passion in doing the mitzvah, right? In doing the mitzvah, right? Because I'm ready to do this act now, any mitzvah, with such passion that I'm even ready to give up my life. But that's only in potential, right? It's only, in other words, hear, O Israel, Lord of God, Lord is one. That I'm connecting to God in every mitzvah that I do in such a way that I'm ready for sacrifice. But that's just, the whole point there is not to die with the mitzvah, of course. It's to live with that notion. So it's not, it's not an actuality giving up your life. So you can't bring a proof from there, because that's just to inspire me that now that I'm doing a mitzvah, right? Oh, be ready for that eventuality, only in potential, not in reality. Just to say, oh, look, obviously, if you're ready, like you say, if you're a person who doesn't have what to if you have, you don't have a life that you're ready to die for something, then you have nothing you're going to live for. Very plain and simple. Here's a good question all of us should ask ourselves. What's so important to you that you're ready to die for? Right? Put your life on the line. So here the Alter Rebbe is saying, well, that's what the Shema is. Coming into the land of Israel wasn't because we were ready literally to give up our lives, because no, the fear would be on the nations. So then what is it? Well, because in the desert, God took care of us. But now that you're going to go into the land of Israel and the manna's not coming from heaven and you're going to have to till the soil, so now you're going to have to live every mitzvah in such a way that, I'm ready to give up my life for this. But again, that's only in potential, not in actuality. And also at Mount Torah, when we said Nasa ben Ishma, also was with that notion. It was before the Shema was given to us, right? By the giving of the Torah, that we're ready to fill the mitzvah to the degree that we're ready to give up our lives. Yet, nonetheless, this was not then the complete acceptance until the decree of Haman, where it was then in actuality. Okay, shoot. Okay, I need to give over this better, or to give it more clarity. We'll have to come back to it, okay? I didn't realize how late it is. Okay. To be continued. We'll see you as soon as possible for Chumash Rashi, as we have a lot today.